Next is the character sheet. Dice are the most important part of the tabletop role-playing game. They are what add the randomness to everyday life and to sitting around a table with your friends. But if the most interaction you've had with dice is a game of Yahtzee, then you might not know what some of these dice are. I'm sure most people will recognize this dice, but what about this? Or this? So why don't I take the next little bit to run through the common dice used in role-playing games and a few tips on how to use them. You roll them. That's how you use them. Come on. The D20. The D20 is an icosahedron with numbers ranging from 1 to 20 spread across so that each number on the opposite sides equals 21. With the exception of this D20, this is a spin down die. It's used in Magic the Gathering, used for counting life totals and counters. But these aren't randomized, so you aren't supposed to use them in role-playing. If you're doing a casual game with your friends, then you do whatever you want, but if you're getting into Adventuring League, this is an illegal die. However, I definitely have a few of these in my GM kit to put next to figures with their initiative count or to keep track of damage. The D6. The D6 is a cube with each opposite side equaling up to 7. This is the most common die everyone is familiar with, but the second most used die while role-playing. I mean, I don't know that for sure. I'm not looking at statistics. I'm just going off of experience. We all know the D20 is used most in D&D, but I don't know of every system out there that uses the D20. I mean, do you count Advanced to 5th edition each separately? I mean, personally, the D6 is the most used die for me because of GURPS. Disclaimer, none of this that I'm saying is reviewed statistics. I'm pulling all of this just out of my ass. D4. Moving on to the D4, which is a tetrahedra, the most dangerous of the die. If you thought Legos were bad, talk to me after you drink a health potion and one of these rolls off onto the floor. In all seriousness though, if you own a metal D4, then you know this shit can kill. Like, I should have a license for this thing. For those of you wondering, the number in the top corner is the number you should care about when rolling the D4. Instead of each number adding up on each opposite side, each corner gets its own number because of the 4 corners of the tetrahedra. There are a couple of D4s that have the number that you roll located on the bottom, and I have one here, but these are pretty rare, so just know that both of these exist. Oh great, this is turning into shapes with QWERTY. Love it. The D8. D8, the octahedron. Now this baby gets a lot of good use, used a lot for damage, and you can roll a crap ton of them when you're casting sleep. Now, we've moved away from numbers on opposite sides adding up to the same number. Instead, neighboring numbers are on opposite sides from each other. So 1 and 2, 7 and 8, and that's how the die is set up. The D10. Moving on to the D10, the pentagonal trapezohedron. Starting to feel pretentious saying all these shapes, but it would just be weird if I stopped halfway through, so here we go. The D10 gets a lot of use between hit dice and loot tables, and it's also used with another die to make up another die. I'll talk a little bit about that later. As far as I know, we've abandoned any kind of rational setup structure for this die. None of the opposite numbers add up to the same number. The opposite numbers aren't numbers. I mean, good on it for actually being random, but you're really giving me a mindfuck by everything else following some sort of structure of opposite relationships, but you don't. Now, I'd like to clarify, the die is still set up the same way. One's always between 9 and 7 and such, but it's the black sheep shape in the family, because it's the only one that's set up randomly, it seems. It doesn't even have a good excuse, because I could shoot a laser through it and hit an opposite face center to center. What?
Nobody's going to get grabbed.
What do you mean no one cares? Well, then it's just added time for the TikTok, Jerry. Also, little note, this is not 0, this is the 10 face. The D12. The D12 is a rhombic dodecahedron and the loneliest dice in my collection, as I never play Barbarian and this is their hit die, and I won't be seeing level 14 Bard anytime soon, which is when their Song of Rest die becomes a D12. We finally return to the tradition of each opposite side adding up to the same number on this dice, and in this case it's Big Bad Scary 13. The percentile die. It's a D10. I mean, it's the exact same die. It just has different numbers on it. Just go back and watch the D10 video. I'm not going into it again. It's a pentagonal trapezohedron and it has a psychotic layout. I'm not doing it again. No, it doesn't matter that it has double digits on it. It's just a D10. It only exists to be rolled with another die. If you're one of the peeps that says I have to roll this for wild magic, then 1v1 me. Look, I'm not saying I'll win, I'm just saying I'm willing to fight for everybody else trying to have fun. The D100. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the D100. Traditionally rolled with a D10 and a percentile together, the percentile represents the tens increments and the D10 represents the ones increments. So like this is 83. Couple of tips for the D100. This is not 0. You can't roll 0 on these dice, knuckleheads. This is a 100. This is not a 100, and this is not a 100. This is a 1, this is a 10. Now you could roll this with 2 different colored D10s if you wanted to and just specify which one is the tens place, which is ones place. However, if you try to roll this with 2 percentiles, you're a psychopath. Controversially, there is an alternative to the D100 setup. This is the Zakahedron. Invented by Lou Zaki in 1985 in the great state of Mississippi, we return once again to the tradition of each opposite number adding up to the same, with each opposite number adding up to 101 in this case. And a lot of people don't like the Zakahedron because they say it's hard to read or that it breaks easy, but all of those people can go suck a dick, because I love this die. I've had it for about 10 years now, and I've rolled it off the table and used it just like any other normal die, and it rolls fine and is held up. Now, to be fair, I think a lot of people that have used the Zakahedron have actually bought a knockoff because the patent for it ran out in 2003, now everybody's making them. I bought mine from Lou himself at a convention several years ago, and I love it to death. It's the prize of my dice collection. The D1000. The D1000 is a fun one. We are past single dice now, so you can either roll a D10 3 times or have 3 different colored D10s. Most people just roll it 3 times and then call it out as they roll. Now the D1000 is mainly used for charts like item charts, magic charts, and such, and we've used it before to roll up random traits from a book. The D10,000. Now, the D10,000 and anything past this point uses the same rules as the D1000. Just roll 1 less die than there are digits in the number, and there you go. I've only ever used the D10,000 for the wild magic chart. I'm not sure what else is out there. It's probably only just for charts or for rolling up truly random numbers between 1 and 10,000. Bonus dice tips. When you roll an attack, go ahead and roll your damage dice at the same time. It's quicker and the dice sound nice rolling all together. There's a couple of dice that I don't have but do exist. Like, a D2 is usually just a coin, but someone did design and make this, and I've seen it for years and always wanted one, but just never got one. It's the same thing with the D3. I've always wanted these dice for just those short list options or quick decisions. Like when you need to pick at random who's gonna get attacked and it's like a 3-person choice. For those of you that don't know, if you don't have a coin, a D2 decision can be made by saying even or odd on any die. Even can be heads and odds can be tails. A D3 decision can be made with a D6 assigning 2 numbers to each choice. I usually just point to each person and say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Finally, I have this custom dice a friend got me for my birthday one year. I call it my decision die because it has like yes and no on it, but it has a few other encouraging things on it like focus and concentrate and different things like that. And then it just randomly has jump in, and if it ever lands on that when I roll it, I usually get pretty reckless in a game. It makes for a fun time though. Well, anyway, now you know just about everything you need to start rolling dice at your first tabletop RPG game. I hope you found this video helpful and had fun learning. And make sure and like the video and comment if you have any questions about dice or role-playing, or if you have an idea of what I should teach next. And if you want to see what I do next, make sure and subscribe and hit the bell icon for notifications. It really helps out a lot. So yeah, see ya!